So first thing, anybody having any trouble with Zoom or Canvas or the class in any way that they need to get help with?
Professor, this is Katie. I just need you to give the multi-pin to me. I was in
Oh,
a few minutes late.
I'm sorry. I thought I did. I thought I did.
That's okay.
You got it now?
Let's see. Yes.
Okay. So the only a few of you did the homework, which is okay. It's your choice. But I'm going to do the problem real quick. So everybody that did it got it right. But it took the problem we did in class one more step in that it included fractions. So I'm just going to go over the one we did and then we'll move on. So the problem was, hold on, you can't see this yet because I haven't put my screen on. Now we got to do this. Can you see the board now?
Yes.
Okay. So it was 21 feet, 6 3/4 inches minus 11 feet, 7 7/8 inches. So, you know, subtracting problems are great unless some of the numbers underneath are bigger than the numbers above. Then you have to do the extra stuff. So obviously 7/8 is bigger than 3/4, so we can't subtract from 3/4. So we're going to borrow, which is what you do in any kind of arithmetic where you're subtracting. And so we need to get more eighths in here. But first, in order to subtract, we have to have the same fraction in terms of denominator. So they both need to be in eighths. This won't go into quarters. This will go into eighths. So you know which one you have to convert to because usually you can only do one. So if we take one of these six units and divide it into 8/8, every whole unit is a fraction with the same numerator and denominator. So if we add 8/8, 3/4 equals 6/8. We change it to 6/8 first. Then we're going to add 8/8 to 6/8 and get 14/8. You see that? And then we're going to have 14/8 up here. So when we do that, we get 14/8, and we can subtract 7/8 from 14/8. Don't forget to cross that out right when you borrow because you'll forget. So then, but here again, we can't subtract 7 from 5. So we got the fractions right, but now we have to borrow from the tens column because we don't have enough. So we'll take one of the 21, we'll make it into 12 inches because those are feet. So I'll make it into 12 inches and we'll add the 12 to the 5 and get 17. And 7 from 17 is 10. And 11 from 20 is 9. So is there anybody that is confused by this or couldn't follow it?
Took me a minute, but I got it.
Okay. So you're just moving right across wherever you have to borrow. I made this so you had to borrow in two places. And the fractions are sometimes difficult also because, you know, you have to know how to convert a fraction to another type of fraction sometimes. In the CT 118, the measuring calculating class, that's a trade math class, and we offer that. I think we're offering it in fall. And that's a great class if you're sketchy on your numbers. Well, it's required for the certificate, but if you're good in math and you're not taking a certificate, don't worry about it. But if you need some help with math, it's a good class to take for that. Okay. Then let's see. I want to There we go. No? Oh, there we go. So I want to go over one more thing with you or give you, and that is we were talking, one of the handout sheets from last time's class was about engineered lumber. And I told you I'd give you a sheet that kind of explained it for you. So I did that, and it's in your, if you go to your file section in your Canvas, and the fourth one down of the files is called engineered lumber. So does everybody see that on the screen? Hello?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know, it's just my
A
computer. but my
resounding,
computer's blurry.
yeah. Okay, well, so you have this in your documents in the file.
Right.
Is it
So-
blurry for anyone else?
I got it blurry, yeah, too.
So let me, does that help?
No.
Slightly, but it's still pretty blurry. But you could make it out.
That's
That's
as big as I can make it.
better. There it is.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So in this town, I think mostly, and you guys can tell me if there's others that you've seen, but we mostly use LVL, LSL, glue lambs, that's misspelled there, no E, glue lambs and paralams. And this is what those stand for. So the LVL is laminated veneer lumber. And laminated, they're all laminated because they're all things stuck together. But the LVL looks like plywood. And I've got a piece I'm going to show you in a second. I'll show you an example of each of these. So it's like, a bunch of sheets of plywood glued and pressured together and then cut into the size beam you want. So that's one engineered lumber. And,
what is
plywood,
is that what Phoenix is, or is that one of those other ones? Phoenix.
oh, that sounds like a trade name, right?
We use that sometimes for forming. It's like black, and it has Phoenix, PHENEX.
Well, the
Yeah.
Phoenix is probably, I would think phenol, what's the stuff, what's the glue that you're supposed to stay away from?
I'm not sure.
John, what's the stuff that's poison that's in plywood in the glue?
It's not arsenic. It's formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde. The phenol is the better formaldehyde. Maybe the phenol and that stands for that. But I'm not sure that the LVL aren't normally black. So I'm not sure to answer you.
Okay.
But when I show you the different ones, maybe you can spot it and you can tell me then.
Yeah.
Yeah, glue lambs are, instead of plywood, instead of veneer, veneer is a word that goes with plywood. The different thin pieces in plywood are called veneer. If it's a glue lamb, it just means they glue and laminate ordinary dimensional lumber, like to put 3 2x8s together, glue the crap out of it between them and pressure them, and then they make one beam. So that's what a glue lamb is. And then a paralam, so glue lamb short for glue laminated timber, paralam short for parallel strand lumber. And that's where they take pieces of wood. They're not even whole dimensional pieces or veneers, but they're just kind of strands of lumber, and they glue them together and put them under tremendous pressure. And I'll show you a piece of that too, and you can see the strands in it. And then LSL, I'm not really familiar with, except it's similar to the paralams. I'm not sure what the difference is. And then other engineered lumber, which is easier to identify. These are kind of, they're not that new, but they actually change the name of these periodically. Glue lambs and paralams have been around for a while, but LVLs used to have a different name. So we have I-joists, which I'll show you a piece of. Ordinary plywood, if you don't know already, is a piece of engineered lumber. anything that's made in a factory is engineered. Otherwise, it's just a tree that's shaped into lumber. But when they add glue and pressure it and use different kinds of a wood resource, it's engineered. So plywood was actually the first engineered lumber. Then we have finger joined wood, like door jambs, which are like close to 1x6. And if you've seen them, every couple of feet, there'll be a little kind of jagged line where you can see where they were joined. So this is a good deal. They're taking scraps of wood and they're putting them together so you're not just using new wood for everything. Then we have particle board, which is just sawdust glued, mixed with a bunch of glue and put under a lot of pressure. MDF is medium density fiberboard. They use that a lot. They used to use that a lot for cabinets. It has a lot of that nasty formaldehyde, the urea formaldehyde. And I don't know, you can ask Rodney because he's a cabinet maker, if they've, what they've done. A lot of times they'll use phenol formaldehyde to kind of make it less toxic. It's still not the greatest. It's a great product because MDF plywood, it's kind of like a plywood. It comes in 4x8 sheets. It's very stable. It doesn't bend like plywood has wood in it, and wood kind of keeps moving even after it's been chopped down. But when you have just wood, small wood pieces that are too small to move, makes for a very stable product. So cabinet makers have liked that because the cabinet doors don't warp. Oriented strand board OSB is a substitute for plywood for sheathing, different things. You've seen all those little strand pieces put in it. It's green. It's sustainable in the sense that you're not using big trees. You know, in a piece of plywood, the 4x8 veneer are pieces that are cut circularly off of a log. So you're taking big logs. So think if a log has to be 4 or 8 foot, if the circumference has to be 4 to 8 foot, I'm not sure if they do the long ways or just the width ways. But if a circumference has to be 4 foot or bigger to get little veneers, that's a pretty good size wood. That's not a new growth. So OSB is nice in that it takes the place of those. It's not nice because they used to use formaldehyde in the glue. Again, all of these you can order with non-formaldehyde glue, but they're very expensive now still. HDF is high density fiberboard. I don't know where that's used except a certain kind of it. It's called hardboard. And that's like the pegboards, hard tempered panels. You know, you've seen those are kind of dark brown and kind of smooth. That the material they make, they punch holes in and make pegboards to hang your tools up on. That's hardboard. So those are other common engineered lumber in the area. So can everybody see this?
Yes. Yeah.
See,
No.
it's a piece of beam, but see how it's got all those little veneers in it? Look at there's two here that even overlapped, and there's a little space there. That's cool, huh? I think they try to get them not to overlap, but every so often they do. But they put so much pressure, it just sort of pounds the crap out of them, so they come out. So that's LVL veneer. And then this is what the Paralam looks like. Just there's little slivers of wood, and they're throwing in there. That's what the side of it looks like. And then the whole thing's put under tremendous pressure. But, you know, they used to put these in living rooms and places, and people went, oh God, you know, box that with some finished wood. But then people started thinking, well, actually that looks kind of trippy. Why don't you just leave it exposed? And so now you see a lot of Paralams that are in buildings just without being dressed at all. They're probably stained. Anybody ever seen those?
No.
Oh, you lie. Okay. Now here's that same wood that we looked at. here's a piece cut across the grain, or so to speak. There's no grain. Oh, I guess you could call it, the strands are longish, and I guess you could call the long way they set is with the grain, and then if you cut across, this was a beam that went out this way, and it was chopped up. I had a friend, he actually was my dean a few deans back, and he had a house near school, and we got a lot of these old paralams from Hayward because nobody wanted them. They were old. They were from an order that somebody discontinued, and they were just sitting in the yard. And I asked the guy if I could have them, so he gave them to me. So we cut up a bunch of them, and he made a floor like this with all of these put next to each other. Pretty cool, huh? It's like a bunch. That's what your body looks like when the worms get to it.
Oh,
At least I
man.
got one laugh out of that. Okay, one last show and tell. This is an a joist. It's equivalent to a 2x12 because it's about 12 high, and now you'll see that this. Let's see if I have a better end. I need a cut end. Yeah. See this top piece? This is a piece of OSB here, and it fits into it's dadoed into a piece of what is that wood? What do we call it? LVL? Yeah, exactly. So it's got an LVL. You can see it from the side too. You can see the layers. So they use engineered wood for the top piece and for the I forget what they call the pieces. John, do you know what they call these?
It's a cord, top cord.
It's just a cord and a web.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a cord and a web. So they use OSB for the web, and they use LVL for the cord. And these are as strong as equivalent 2x12. In fact, they're stronger, and they're stronger so that you can use less of these in a layout. So if you have a, let's see, what is it? If you have a 16 on center layout with 2x12s, you can span these a little bit bigger than 16. You can go to 19. And if you ever look at your tape measure, oh, I just happen to have one here. Let's see, what can you, does that read, do the numbers read correct to you?
Yeah.
Facing the right way?
Mhm.
Okay, everything's reversed for me, you know. So see, just past the 19, there's a little diamond shaped black diamond right there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And then just past the 28, let's see, where's 28? No, 38. Duh. 38, there's another black one right there. You see that? Just before a half. So those are multiples of 19 something. And that's what you get if you put, instead of 4 spaces in 8 feet. No. What's 16 into 96? 6? 6 spaces. So if you have, for every 8 feet, if there's 16 on center, you have 6 spaces, right? And for 8 foot with an I joist, you can go 19. You can go 19, so you can fit 5. So you only have to do 5 spaces in 8 feet. 5 into 96 is 19 something. And so you save, for every 8 feet, you save a single piece of joist. So if you have a huge floor, that can add up. And the problem is, because it deals with that 19 something layout, and it doesn't even line up with a 16th, that extra bit. It's 19 and, well, somebody divide 96 by 19 in inches. John, do you have a construction calculator?
You asking for the layout?
Yeah, so just divide 96 by 19. No, 96 by 5, sorry. The problem with these is that carpenters are so used to 16 or 24, it was hard for a lot of them to learn the 19. So a lot of times contractors will use these and just use a regular six space layout over 8 feet like the old layouts. So they're not saving any money, but they are doing two things. One is these engineered lumber are much straighter because they're made in a factory and they're very straight. They don't have the crowns and waves that typical lumber will have, especially if it ages. So these are straighter and they're better for the world because they cut down less trees. So they may not be a monetary savings all the time, but there's other ways. And you can put holes in them because you have to get electrical stuff, just like you put holes in a regular one. And there are specifications of where and how big of holes you can make for conduits and things. Any questions about that stuff?
My calculator gives me 19 and 3/16.
Yeah, it's not exactly 3/16. That's what's closest, but it's a pretty hard number to work with if you have to do any calculation with it. Okay, so where does that leave us? Oh yeah, so the handout. So go to your Canvas platform, and under files, we're going to look at set 6. I believe that's right.
Sure is nice having these on Canvas.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for suggesting that. I don't always know what's good for you guys.
Yeah.
I'm in a whole nother world over here.
If school didn't send so many emails every day, it wouldn't be such a big deal, but
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's see. Where are we? Share screen. Okay, everybody see that? On
Yep.
your screen? Okay. So set 6, and it's about elevations. So here's a plan view. When they say plan view, well, look and see what they're referring to, but it's obviously a floor plan view. Plan, remember I said, means looking from the top. So sometimes they'll abbreviate it with just plan view. So here's what the house looks like from the air if you cut off the, actually a floor plan view is a section that normally they don't tell you this. It's a section cut through the whole building about 4 feet up from the floor. So it will only show you the stuff that's 4 feet from the floor. So the fireplace starts 4 feet down. The cabinets are all under 4. But anything that starts 5 or 6 feet up the room won't show on this plan, theoretically, but they put stuff in there anyway. But if you were to hold them to it, you'd say, well, it's a section through a 4 foot above the floor. So anyway, like we said, all floor plans and site plans have a compass point. So north is this way. So, you got a garage and then rooms and looks like a porch. So it's a pretty straightforward house. And then these are the views that you're going to get. So the one thing you need to know about views are that, say a west elevation is looking from the west. Is that right? Yeah. So south elevation is looking north from the south. So it's always from the west, from the north, from the east. You got that? It's not looking toward the south. It's looking from the south toward the north. So we're standing out here and we're gonna, for the south elevation, we're gonna be looking north. So that's this elevation. And yes, indeed, we see the garage door there. We see the entryway and there's a porch you can see. It's got a little pillar there. I guess that's what that was. So each side of the house, if it's got 4 sides that are fairly simple, then you'll have 4 elevations that look like this, and they'll be labeled by the direction you're looking from. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Now, when you look at the house like this, you have no idea what it looks like. In fact, this only has the one floor, right? But actually it's a two-story house, which is, that's the first thing that'll fool you. They don't show another floor plan, but you need to look at the elevations to see what the heck the house looks like in terms of the roofs and the stories and which are single story and which are double story. So what it looks like is if you go down to the south elevation, which is looking this way, the double stories on the left-hand side. So it looks like this is doubled up, this box here. And then the garage and whatever's behind it is a single story. So the garage and the family room, this side of the house is single story. And if you look at all the other elevations, you'll see that same thing. So when you first get a set of plans and you're looking at them and say you're going to build a house, or you just want to know what the house looks like for whatever reason, maybe you're a client, the first thing you're going to do is look at the floor plan, and then you're going to look at the elevations in respect to the floor plan to get a sort of the lay of the land of the house. These are the two views that do it the most. Elevation views and floor plans. And you could, this is a great little page here because they're all on one page. So you can just go, you can look at things from plan to plan. Does everybody see how that works?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, now this second page, I wanted to include because it shows you what the different roof styles are called, and you need to know these names. So, no, I don't know if anybody builds or calls anything a flat roof, because it's got to, every roof has to have at least an 1/8 inch per foot slope, like plumbing pipe. But that, unless you live in a really dry area that never rains, which is maybe where they would build these, that's not much slope. If you are using asphalt shingles, they come down the roof and they overlap a little bit on each one. And that overlap forces the shingle above to lose slope. So it's even less than an 1/8 if you're using 1/8. If the rafters are, sloping 1/8 inch per foot down the roof, by the time you put shingles on, that where the two shingles overlap is almost going to be flat, which means it could hold water. So forget about this flat roof. Most roofs need a little bit more of a slope, and so we call them shed roofs, because you have to shed snow. I mean, remember an A-frame's not a shed roof, but remember how steep it is. So snow country, you need a steep slope, and rain country, you need this kind of slope. But a single plane, single rectangle is called a slope roof. A shed roof. Then the next roof, this is the most common roof, I think, in the United States. I'm not sure, I haven't done a survey, but it's one of the most common. And, we call it the little triangle roof because the end forms a little triangle. Just two planes going from the peak down to the walls. A very common type of house. When you're building houses out of Lincoln logs, this is what you build. Then there's so that's called a gable roof. Okay, so shed roof, gable roof. Then we have a lot of these hip roofs in town everywhere. And especially climates where there's a lot of rain, they'll use a slope on all four sides because they want the water to stay away from the house. And if you go down to De La Guerra Plaza downtown, you'll see they have some shed roofs there, and the overhangs are huge. They're like 2 or 3 feet because these were from Mexico. The people who built these houses were from Mexico, and probably a rainy part of Mexico, and they were used to building hips with big overhangs. This one, 2 sides are protected, but what if the rain's coming in an angle on this gable end? It's more vulnerable. The roof's not protecting it as much. And then gambrel, these are kind of specialty roofs. And this is the old barn roof everybody knows about. And the only difference between this and a gable is it has 2 slopes on each side. They break it for some reason, which means you can't have rafters that come down simply. This has got a little bit more complex framing underneath. And then this is the gambrel's like a gable with an extra angle in it, and the mansard's like a hip with an extra angle. And these, are any of you from the South?
Nope.
If you go to the South United States, this is common in Louisiana and places because the word is even French. Mansard is a French word, and this is a roof that comes from France. And probably the French Canadians who settled Louisiana brought this down with them. But you see a lot of these in the South. And I've seen one or two in the Santa Barbara area. There's one up in San Marcan that's like this. And they're very rare because they're a pain in the ass to build, and we don't have this look here. This isn't a Spanish or a Mexican look architecturally, so we don't have it too much, but that's what it's called if you see one. Then just for some further framing background for those of you who haven't done any framing or taken any classes, the span and the roof framing class covers all this, but if you want to know the quick and dirty, in framing roofs, you need to know certain dimensions. One of them is the span of the building that you're putting a gable or a hip roof on. Then half of that, the distance to the center line, which goes right down the middle of the ridge, that's called a run. And then you've got rafters on either side that go to a ridge. And then architects call out the slope of a roof by this little triangle. And we call it a 5-12 roof. So 5:12, or you usually don't write it this way, but this is the way architects put on the plan because the bottom of that triangle is parallel to the roof, so you know what angle they're talking about. So 5:12 is just the way we instead of putting an angle like, 20 degrees, we call it a 5:12, and that means for every 12 feet you go this way, you go up 5 feet, or inches or meters, doesn't matter. The ratio is 5:12. 12 this way, 5 up. 12 this way, 5 up. So we won't go further in why they use that, but that's the way they designate the slope of the roof. And this is good to know because it'll be on the plans. And it's always on an elevation plan because they want to show which slope it attaches to. So it has to be on a plan that shows the slope of the roof. Any questions about these roofs?
No.
Did everybody know all the names of these roofs before class tonight?
No.
Okay.
No.
At
No
least two
idea.
of you did. Okay. Okay, now we get the fun part. So I'm going to have you do an exercise. I added to the assignment to bring some paper and a pencil to class. So if you don't have any, go get a couple of sheets of paper and a pencil or pen. So you guys that are watching the screen now, does everybody go for paper? So John, you got your paper already, and you're
Yeah.
watching the screen. Can you see everybody else's screen?
I have a totally different setup than probably most people do, so I see something different, unfortunately.
Do you see the other screens right now?
Yeah, I have a dual monitor setup.
Okay.
So I
So
see everything.
how many of those people left to go get paper?
I don't know. I was getting paper.
Oh, okay. Teachers hate this kind of waiting because we told everybody to do it. So John, how many people are actually back at their screen?
Looks like pretty much everyone's back.
Oh, okay, great. So when you look at this floor plan, you see a dotted line here, yeah? What do you suppose that is?
Roof.
Yeah, outside of the foundation.
The roof, well, it could be foundation, but in this case, it's the roof line. And then, so we go, okay, the roof's got overhangs. So, but what is the shape of the roof? Then you'll see a dotted line. You have to look carefully going along the middle. So that means it's going to be a gable roof. So this side, everything above that line is going down. And everything on this side is going down this way. If this were a roof plan where all you'd see is this rectangle and some other stuff, you'd see an arrow pointing down. And we'll look at that later. And that means that's sloping down. An arrow always goes down. So this doesn't have one, but you can tell it's going to be a gable roof. And then they added a little part of a room, jots out from this face of this wall. And then they put a hip roof. No, it's a gable roof too. They put a little gable roof here to cover that piece that went out. And when you add two gables together, you have a little valley where this roof and this roof meet.
So that one, the one you're pointing to, that's probably like a little bit lower than that ridge is lower than the longer ridge that runs all the way across.
Yes. Good point. If this ridge was the same height as this ridge, this would connect to this one.
Right.
So this is further down, and we'll look in a second. We'll see. Yeah, good point. So when you make if this area, this is called a span. Remember, if this area is less wide than this area, it's not gonna match. A smaller one will come down the roof a little bit. So this is all coming down, and it's gonna hit these valleys because this roof comes out of that big roof right here. Like a dormer would do the same kind of thing. So this is the ridge on that little piece. And this is where the two roofs hit each other. This is called a valley. So we already know if we looked at this direction, we'd see a roof coming down, and then it'd be interrupted by a little triangle at the end here. So that's what this direction would look like. You have a door, you'd have window. As far as we know, there's those two windows and a door. If you look this way, what would you see? This is north, so this must be east. What?
The front door, it says entry, so front door.
Yeah, no, look at my arrow.
Oh,
We just did that. What if you're looking this way?
Oh, you're looking from the south?
No. This means north, even if they don't say it. So south would be looking from the south would be.
It's got an arrow. It's got
Yeah,
that arrow,
the arrow's pointing north.
right.
So if you're looking from the south, you're looking this way.
Right.
But I want you to look. Can you see my arrow?
Yeah, you're east. So now you're looking east.
Yeah, there you go. So no, I'm
You're looking
looking
west.
west. Yeah, it's the east elevation. But what would that look like? Can you visualize that?
Yeah, it'd be like the front of the house.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Oh, well, the front, I mean, you got a front door right there, obviously. It looks
No,
like-
this east side. What is this looking this
Oh.
direction?
From the east elevation?
Yeah, east elevation.
You're looking at like a triangular roof and.
Right, you'd have a gable roof, good. And then, what's that?
Like, it looks like that little front section would be jutting out slightly past.
Yeah, you'd see this on the left side of that gable coming down. You'd see this jutting out, good. And what's this little dark thing on the wall here?
Window?
Yeah, so you'd see a window. So if you were to draw that, you'd draw a triangle, you draw a window there, and then coming out of that triangle down here on the left side would be this. And then looking at the west elevation, what would you see?
Looks like you got a wraparound window on the north side right there, kind of.
You know, that's a good question. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what, but anyway, there's another window.
Yeah.
Kind of midway.
Yeah,
And
and then the
also-
roof would be a gable again, right?
Right.
And then with this little thing jutting out straight from that. Okay, so on instructions say on separate sheets of paper, you don't need to use more than one. Just do a rough sketch of what each elevation would look like and label it. So south elevation would be from the south, this one down here, and just draw what you'd see. Now, you think you can do that?
Graph paper helps. I mean, you do it to scale too, because
Yeah, but you don't need to, for this one, you don't need it. We're going to do a scaled one in a second. This one,
Okay.
just do a rough sketch.
All right.
So you'd have walls go up and then you'd have a roof, you know,
We're sketching the east elevation view.
all four elevations. So
Oh, okay.
do south, north, east, and west. You can do them small and fit them on one piece of paper or front and back or a couple, I don't care. It's just an exercise to see if you can visualize from symbols what it actually looks like.
What's that shading in the top?
I don't know.
Yeah,
It would probably say, if that's for a real set of plans, it'd probably have a note and say, you know, I don't know. It's not a standard symbol. Windows are usually darkened, or if not darkened, there's still a line that usually goes through the center of the wall. Unless it's a weird kind of window, and then they might do more detail. So how we doing?
almost
Got
done.
one side.
Okay, so
Did-
if
did
you're,
we just-
if
Did we
if you're,
just lose the plan? Sorry.
yeah, if you're enjoying doing this and it's a challenge, then don't look at what I'm going to show. But for the people that are getting stuck, the south view will have the side view of the gable roof, and then it will have that little gable that dies into it on the left side. And then the view coming this way, you'll see that this roof, you'll see the side of it here.
I don't
Yeah.
think that's right. That's right, Patrick.
You don't?
No, because I think that front left sticks out further than the main building.
Here?
Yeah, that comes out past the building. So you're drawing below the other gable roof should come out another 10 feet, right?
Hold on. I used to have a, oh, here it is. I don't want to go off my page. Let me see what I got here. Oh, yeah, you're right. Down here.
Yeah, it should
Thank you.
look like that.
Well, actually,
Yeah, because it sticks out past, right? It's an L. shape.
yeah. So it sticks out to there.
But your top drawing is right.
Yeah, top drawing's right.
Yeah.
Is that what you get, John, like that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's got, but also we need the wall for that. What is that, a bedroom? Like that, right? So you can't, on an elevation, you can't see the depth. But this little wall here is the, looking at this wall, is that. And it's further back. So, but the line still tells you that what's there. Do you guys need the thing up on the screen?
It helps.
Let me know when you're done. Just say you're done. Can you guys listen and draw at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess that proves it, huh? So when I was in junior high, they had a class called, I think it's called maybe industrial drafting. Anybody ever take a class like that?
No.
Industrial drawing, I think they called it. And they would have all these objects like big crane hooks and different industrial objects, and they would give you one picture of it and they'd have you draw the other, what it looked like from other pictures. So it's a lot like this kind of exercise. It was a tremendous amount of fun. If you've been building for a number of years, this is relatively easy. If you're new at it, it may be a challenge to translate from vertical to horizontal. But even though on a set of plans, you'll have both this floor plan and elevations, you still have to fit the elevations to the floor plan like we did above. And so this is a good exercise because you still have to say, well, you know, oh, so for instance, you'd all know that a gable, an addition, intersection of two roofs is going to look something like this. Going to have valleys in it somewhere. How we doing?
3 down, 1 to go.
Okay. Is everybody else just honking along there?
Yeah,
Hey, can you guys see me?
I can.
Yes.
All I see is the big fat screen.
You don't have a partial gallery view on the right?
Not when I got my screen.
No.
When I'm sharing my screen, takes over my life. I feel cut off from humanity. Okay. What do your teachers say when they want you to hurry up and finish?
This is a joke.
Yeah. What did the teacher say to the class when she was getting impatient and wanted them to finish?
I give up.
Yeah. I'm gonna cheat. Okay, Jose's writing. Hugo's done. Hugo, did you finish? Sort of.
I got one more.
Okay. Duke's still drawing. God knows what all these people who don't share their face are doing. We don't want to know. So how many think that's fun?
It's cool. It helps with to visualize.
Yeah. Reading blueprints, a lot of visualization. We might do some more of this later on. We have a session where we're going to do some drafting, and if you do this stuff yourself, it helps you really learn it better. Plus, you can draw your own plans eventually. Okay. So some of you can get started on this next one. We may, I may give you a few minutes and then have you finish it as homework. But, so take a look at it, even if you're not done with the other one.
I didn't know what a Sophie. So I looked it up and it's like some kind of event. A Sophie.
Soffit.
Sophie.
Yeah. Where do you see that?
The last page you were just on, the one you say you might do for homework.
Huh. You're already there, huh? Good for you. Okay. Yeah.
I thought we were supposed to do that this week, so I just did it.
Well, it's good. It's good. Well, yeah, you were supposed to look at it, and I didn't specify whether you should do it or not, but if you did it, great.
All right.
So, so I'm going to assign this one as homework for the rest of you, if you haven't done it, because I want to keep going so we don't stay too late tonight. But this page is asking you to look in this direction, looking up. There's no, compass point, but you're looking up, and you're looking, like say you're standing at the bathtub and you're looking across the bathroom, and you're going to see this vanity. Vanity is a sink cabinet, right? Does it call it vanity? Yeah. So there's a sink cabinet. This is the countertop looking down on. This is the actual sink. This is a outlet, which you probably wouldn't see because it's only 1/8 of an inch thick against the wall when you're looking at this wall. There's a toilet here, WC. And you can draw that any way you want for a toilet, just fake it, but put it in where the location. And then the dimensions, it says a 4-foot 2-door vanity. So this distance, let's call the top and the vanity the same distance. Don't worry about that. So this is 4 feet across to here, right? And so when you're looking at it, you'll need the width across and the height off the ground. It's 30 inches off the ground, 2.5 feet. Then a soffit is a little, let me draw that on the board. Well, before I do the soffit, there's a 6-inch backsplash. So a backsplash is a piece of tile or some kind of material that is waterproof that protects splashing water. So it says there's a 6-inch backsplash. So it's 6 inches above from the top of the vanity up across this back. There's a mirror above that, a 4x4 foot mirror. Since that's 4 feet, the mirror takes up the whole back of the wall there. And the height of that wall, you're going to need that because you're looking at it this way. The height is 8'1". So it'd be good if you could make graph paper 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and then you can do 8 feet. But you can use any kind of graph paper or anything actually, you could do it without any kind of pattern, just plain paper, and just draw it roughly and give the dimensions, measure it out and give the dimensions. You could use a scale and just scale it.
Are you, Patrick, are you gonna post his homework in Canvas? Like post
Can you post stuff in Canvas? Oh, like the assignment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You can
I
type
don't
on, you can type, like when I give you questions to answer in the assignment page,
Yeah.
you type in the text. How would you do a drawing? Is there a way to insert a drawing?
Yeah, you just upload a PDF or something.
Okay.
Just make it so people can upload files.
Okay, let's do that. I'll write it down on this. I'll add it to the assignment, but let's do it that way. That's great. I don't know that I've ever assigned a
We'll just
drawing.
take a picture, then upload it.
You can take a picture, upload it. You can take a picture and email it to me. I don't care. Whatever it is you're capable of doing with your setup. You could do a drawing, and John, you'd have to take a picture, right? And then
or scan it.
yeah, scan it. Yeah, okay. Okay. So the vanity we were going to talk about. So the vanity is from the ceiling down, maybe a foot by a foot. They in this drywall, it's just a little bump out of the ceiling where the ceiling and the wall meet, and they put pipes in there. So this is a WC, so maybe they put the I don't know. No, the WC pipes would be in this wall. Maybe there's air conditioning that goes in that soffit.
So does the WC just mean water closet, or is that
water closet's the symbol for toilet. It used to be. People may use different ones, but WC is universal still. So this soffit, so when you're looking straight at the wall at the very top, you just come down a foot and draw a line all the way across the room.
Does it extend out into the room, like towards, is it just like?
Yeah, it extends into the room, but since you're looking at it from this way, you wouldn't see the depth. You don't see a line a foot down.
Right, I got you. So it extends into the room like a foot by a foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Rectangle that will go across the whole corner of the.
Exactly. And
Oh,
probably
the
a duct, probably some ducting runs through there
Oh, okay.
from one side of the house to the other. And they give you the length of the soffit is the length of the room. So the width of the room is also 8'6".
Okay, yeah, those are what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah. So they give you, and try to do 8'1" and 8 foot. Try to do the fractions. I mean, the inches if you can.
Yeah.
Estimate.
You have that. It helps with the what do you call it?
The graph paper.
The architect's ruler.
Oh, scale.
Architect's, yeah, the little triangular guy.
Yeah. The triangular guy. Yeah. So everybody got that? I mean, what the assignment is, you can do it at home. It shouldn't take you too long. You can just sketch it roughly. I don't care. It's just kind of a way to use your scale if you want to, or use graph paper. And then just kind of same thing. You're translating a plan to a elevation. I assume that's a yes from everybody.
Yes.
And then you can finish up the other one too, and put that on too, the elevation one you did, if you can do it. This was, I don't know why I put this in there. Maybe it was on the other side of one of the pages I used. And it has nothing to do with elevation, except, well, this is actually a section. And, well, it's actually a detail. It goes in the details, which we'll study down the road a piece. But I wanted to show you when the first week we did siding, and remember I said the siding plan gives the finished floor height, which would be whatever the finished floor is above this plywood sheathing height. And then I said you had to add up all the other stuff until you got down to the footing, because you're going to put your form boards right here. So actually you'd go to it would go to here on one side and up here on the other. You're going to put your form boards in here to get this footing in, the footing in the stem wall. And so you need to know what the distance is from this elevation on the plan to the top of either side, however you would form it. And so you're going to subtract the finished floor, which is not here yet. Say it's 3/4. And then you're going to subtract another 3/4 for the sheathing. And then you've got this is a truss, a floor truss. I don't know what this is up here. This looks like the top chord. And this maybe isn't a good idea because, well, whatever this distance from here to here, you'd have to know. So you subtract all that distance to get your height of your form boards. But these are interesting drawings. Almost every plan has these. Sometimes they have one that's just general, but this may, like this has a brick veneer, so it'd be slightly different. We don't use a lot of brick here, but it would show you how they're grading the ground and blah, 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 various things. So it's kind of got some nice information. Okay. Okay. So you've got a choice now. You can take a 10-minute break now, and then we'll do elevations and sections, or we can do one of them and then have a break and then go in lesser time. What do you think? We're going to take a break either way, but can you go a little bit longer, or would you rather take it now?
I would vote for a break now.
Okay, let's take it now. And if we don't get through this, we'll continue. We don't have to, do a Bataan death march to get through what we have for tonight. We can continue it. So let's take a 10-minute break now. It's at 7:30. Come back and we'll try to wrap it up 8:15, hopefully. Is that good?
Good.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys in 10.
Hey, Patrick,
Yeah.
have you taken roll yet?
What? No. Just Hamar?
Yeah. Yeah, it's me.
I'll take you down now, but I'll do it after break. I haven't
Okay, sounds
taken
good.
you yet. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Hey Patrick, I saw
Yeah.
that there's subtitles, so if that might help Hugo out, if it shows at the bottom of the screen. So as you talk, it just fills in the words.
Hold on.
Can you hear me?
So what?
There's subtitles. I don't know if that might help Hugo out to read at the bottom of the screen, along with the ladies.
Subtitles.
There's some captions, closed captions.
Just to make clear, there is someone who's doing the captionings.
Okay,
And I think he's set up with that right now. Thanks for for having that concern.
Yeah,
But yeah, we have a captioner.
Okay. I just saw it when I logged on today, where it's so
Yeah.
as Patrick's talking, it pops up at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, yeah, it's a new feature. So there's
Yeah.
a person on board named Deborah tonight who's doing the captioning.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, Patrick,
yeah.
I still haven't forgotten about your deck. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going to be working on one of my jobs in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get them to come over then.
Okay, no sweat.
I haven't forgotten. We've just been super busy. And
Yeah,
then
no, I know.
so
I know. You know, we had I don't know if the picture showed it, but we had a Japanese cup downspout. You ever seen those?
yeah.
And it worked on the deck, but then we had one below the deck, so the water came out of the gutter at the end of the deck and went down it. But the rains lately have been so heavy that so much water came down that thing and just killed everything in the garden below. My wife had a fit, just wiped out a bunch of plants. So I had to take that nice black Japanese cup thing and replace it with a standard downspout. We had a downspout that was there before that went all the way through into the ground and into a drain. But we didn't, since we had the deck cantilever out a bit, it would have had to go at an angle more, and those things look kind of glommy,
Yeah.
but we got it back. So that's what I did this weekend.
Yeah, I remember the when I was a kid, my dad did this house and the whole outside was stained cedar or something. And they put in the chains, they kind of look like chains or something.
Yeah, yeah,
And they ended up splashing on the house when it rained heavy. And it's
Yeah.
all stained cedar, the whole house. And you end up getting gray marks or something around the area.
yeah.
Well, it was the same house when they were staining it. One of the painters left all the rags in a bucket onto the deck and lit the whole front of the house on fire, and they had to re-sign it.
Oh no. Oh God. Oh man.
It was some retired tech guy, and he built this round concrete house originally from some construction company from the Bay Area. And it was just one thing after another went wrong. The water all ran to the first house he built. There was like a creek that literally ran into it.
Yeah.
And just hired this company out of the Bay Area. He's like, oh yeah, go for it. And it didn't go well.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time people build on city lots that are, all that stuff's been figured out over the years. But if you get a new territory and you don't know the terrain and the weather, you can just get burned bad. Yeah, well, this weather wasn't, these rains are, pretty voluminous. There's a lot of water. And we've had those before, but it seems like they're getting pretty big.
Yeah. Well, I went and I fixed a couple of our downspouts because my wife was complaining about it. And so I finally fixed them, but the one that catches a bunch of our water off the roof, it catches probably 30% of it in the entryway. I put the new downspout on, but it's so loud when it was raining that it was waking us up at night. Because it was like
Really?
roaring.
Really? Just coming down a standard downspout, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I finally went after 2 nights to wake me up. I spaced it off the wall and put some pieces of pipe insulation behind it and then re-screwed it. And that seemed to fix it. But somehow it was resonating the wall and it was waking both of us up.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, well, that's it, we're not used to that much water, that force of water.
Yeah.
Well, I think if that's the only problem you have with your house this year, you you can thank the stars.
We had three new leaks in the roof, but I got buckets under all of them. So in the attic. So yeah.
Oh, the joys of owning a house, huh? Well, you'll never be bored, that's for sure. God.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Well, I keep making my plans grander and grander for the addition. And I think I told you I want to have one of those clear view windows up on top with the 2 peaks so I get solar gain in the winter because there's no light on that side of the house. There's
Yeah.
a tree at the other end. And I keep going on, but I have to get the rest of the roof fixed at some point.
Right.
So I don't know. It may be tarps.
Yeah, the light's a nice thing. My parents had a house in Palm Springs, a vacation house. I mean, it was pretty cheap. It was in a really cheap development, but it had the lowest spinoff of the mid-century modern look. I mean, it was it had a shed roof and it had windows, and they were what's that shape that's a square but the top side goes in an angle? Is that a trapezoid?
Yeah, and because it tapers out to the ridge or something.
No, the sides are parallel and perpendicular to the bottom, and then the top just goes up at an angle.
Yeah.
That's a trapezoid, right?
I think so. I don't know.
But anyway, they had those kind of windows along the
gable
side
wall.
where the shed was. They would have an 8-foot wall, and then they'd have the windows go up, the roof go up, and then that would all be glass, let in light.
Well, my wife keeps talking more. We keep watching. Well, she watches those. The different home shows on the different networks.
Oh yeah, you got to stop that. You just tell her you got to save money and go down in your cable and to eliminate that channel, or you're done for.
But
So
she was always like, oh, I really like modern Spanish, like kind of Santa Barbara Spanish
Yeah.
style, and all of a sudden she's like, I want mid-century modern, like between 1955 and 75 or something. And
Yeah. They give if you ever need to gain some points with your wife, they have a mid-century modern tour out in Palm Springs in the desert area every year. And you can go out there and, stay, and then every day go to a bunch of houses, classic examples of that.
Huh.
And if
Cool.
we've been threatening to do it for years, so as soon as the pandemic's over, we may do that. There's some nice houses out there in that vein.
There's certain my neighbor, he came over, was talking today. He wants one of those doors. They're kind of mid-century modern with the 7 windows in it, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. He wants one of those, and he wants a mid-century modern cover for his thing. So I got to draw that up, but it really seems to be coming back.
Yeah. Well, it was, I don't know if it started out in the desert. I think it may have, but the sun's so intense out there and the light is so interesting that, to get take advantage of that, they started out with some of that design, did that. It's a nice style. It's simple. It's kind of modern, it's not a lot of details and doodahs and stuff, but
It was kind of crazy to me. My wife showed me an episode off one of those shows. I don't know if it was on a major network or one of the streaming ones, but it was this. They restored a 1973 house, and the house was almost original, and they restored it all because it had been updated to like the 90s or something, all the way back to 1973. Green carpet, pink carpet, shag all the way through, and they restored it to the 70s.
I wonder if it was one of those houses that they used on a show, not a sitcom or, you know, like the Brady Bunch. I never watched that, but you know, you've heard of that, right?
Yeah,
Did you ever watch it?
yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So that house they restored. That was a big project they did. They restored it to the time when the original show was on. I wonder if that's what she was looking at.
Yeah, but the people they restored it. I guess it was like a show about fixing up your house to rent it out on Airbnb or something. And
Yeah.
you can go rent it out. It's like $1,000 a night or something crazy. But no, it was kind of cool. And it in retrospect, the green, like as long as it's not dingy like a lot of old 70s stuff we see,
Yeah,
it
right.
looks cool. I don't know. I'm hoping she doesn't watch any more of that show.
You know, it's funny in California, Southern Cal, where it's warm enough, people have just eliminated wall-to-wall carpet, right? But if you look at some of these shows and they're up where it's cold, people still want carpet in their bedroom because when, you know, in cold country, floors get really icy, you know? So it's funny, they're still hanging on to carpet in certain rooms, other parts of the country.
I've been seeing a very odd correlation where if someone's from Northern California or Northern climate or something, they move here and they get work done, they still get carpet in the bedrooms. If
Yeah.
they're from Southern California,
Yeah,
it's wood flooring in the bedrooms. And it's very, to me, I mean, carpet is something that goes on top of the floor, but
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, you can get throw rugs. There's really nice, you know, carpets you can put on the floor. And then do people do radiant floor in second stories? Because usually, often it's in a concrete, you know, first floor.
Well, when I was a kid, when my dad was building houses in Northern California, they did that sometimes. You know, the upstairs, you know, the master bath, and sometimes some other areas would have it.
Did they
But
did they put concrete in the bath, then put tile over it?
yeah, no, it was they would run it. It was either water or electric, and then they'd pour, you know, an inch or
Yeah. Right.
self level. They put it in. Yeah, and that was pretty common there, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen it here.
Yeah. Oh, we're past due. Is everybody here?
Yeah, we're all here.
Okay. So what are we doing now? Oh, elevations. Okay, so I'm going to start and people can join in. So I'm going to share the screen. We're going to go to we're going to look at elevations first, and we're going to go to the temp 002 and temp 003 plans first. And I'll share it on the screen. So can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to show it, try to get the whole page on the screen, and then when we go to look at it, I'll zero in because the print's pretty small. But it says my internet connection is unstable. Oh well. So obviously it's an outside view. And when we look at the floor plan in a second, we'll see what this is. This is the front view. It's the entryway and there's a garage at a slight angle. But look at all the stuff. It's got this, all the details it has. So it's got this tubular daylighting device, which we call solar tubes here. It calls out the solar panels. It calls out the type of window. That dotted triangle actually tells us it's an awning window, but they want to repeat that, and then they're telling what kind of glass is in it. Often that information could go on a window schedule, so it varies. Sometimes architects don't put as much information, but certainly on the siding, this would be the best place to talk about what kind of siding. This is vinyl siding, PVC trim. This would be the best place to point out the surface coverings. Probably somewhere it's got a standing seam metal roof. So, you know, the various plans feature the things that are easiest to show and what makes most sense to show. So obviously any kind of surface, outside surface material will be shown on the elevation plan. So this says south elevation. I like it when they call out the elevation on the plan. Sometimes they don't, or they'll put it over on the information border. But it's nice to have it, you know, right there in the plan. They've got east elevation. They've got another page with north and west. Anything else we need to know? Yeah. So this has got section, and we're going to look at sections next, but they show up on both floor plans and elevation. So here's a section, and what they're doing is they're slicing the house all the way from top to bottom along this line. And then they're going to show what it would look like if you were looking this way. See, this is south. So if you were looking east along that section, this way you'd see. So you're going to see a little bit of this. They want to show you what this cupola looks like. They can't show you from the outside because all you see are the windows and the roof. And you want to know, well, what's it look like in the inside? That's what this section is going to tell you. I think it's mostly for this. It probably shows the whole room, but nothing over here is that eventful, if I remember. This has got solar hot water panels as well as electrical. So this is kind of cool. Then we have the slope of the roof, 812. That's a pretty good slope. Mostly Santa Barbara. New construction is usually 3, 4, 5, 12. 8's kind of steep for here. We don't need it because of the rain, and we have no snow, but sometimes if people have a design motif that requires a steep roof, they'll put it in anyway. I think that's everything. See, here's the side view of this cupola. It doesn't show you a lot more. It shows you the slope of it, 312. But we want to get an idea of what that looks like from inside, because it could be just something on the roof. This could be, a lot of times they'll put dormers on roofs that don't really go into the attic, but just have windows for decoration. This could be that. This could be have no function at all, and underneath the roof could actually go all the way up. So we can't tell if that's the case or not until we get inside.
Why are the hot water? Why are the solar hot water panels called passive? Is there no pump to circulate the water? Or?
Well, yeah, these are passive with no pump. Yeah, no electrical connection to them for whatever they have. You know, they often have a thermostat, and when it gets cold, it'll drain them. And all that's done by electrical devices. So this passive, does it tell where this house is? I don't know where this house is. Doesn't really tell. But if you're going to have passive solar panels, you have to be in a place that doesn't freeze ever. In the old days, if it was one story and you could actually reach the panels pretty easily, you could manually drain them when you knew the freezing weather was coming, which is a pain in the ass, you know. Again, that's something you could do manually and save on electricity and all the wiring and everything. Of course, you forget, you go out of town and that freezing night occurs and all your pipes break. So, you know, there's advantages to some active aspects to systems, but that technically means there's no electrical parts to it. Okay, let's go back to, here's also a section in the garage, which is kind of funny. Sections you'll also see in the floor plan, like this section is going to cut the house this way. So it also goes from front to back. It goes horizontally, right? This is a vertical cut. But if it cuts the whole house, you'll see it on the floor plan going from front to back of the house. So let's take a look at that. I wonder if I can skip to the next. Nah.
With that section C, is that going to be at like a diagonal cut?
Well, let's see what the floor plan looks like. That's why I was waiting. Let's go to the floor plan and check it out. No, that's the second elevation. What do you suppose? 4? Foundation. This one isn't the order. So what do you think? 5? Framing. Oh my God. I don't have this memorized because it's asked backwards. Okay, here we go. So, okay, can everybody see that floor plan?
Yeah.
So who was asking me, Alec or somebody else, what this section in the garage was?
The C section, yeah.
Who's that talking?
Duke.
Duke, okay, great. So yeah, so, you know, you couldn't tell from another view because the garage was at an angle. So it was a good question because it didn't make any sense. But here you see it. It's just at perpendicular. Okay. And it's going to show you, when we go to the section page, I think they don't have all the sections on this set, but they do have this one. And I forget what they're trying to show us, but we'll see. There's something that you can't get from just looking at the elevations and at the floor plan. So we'll check that out. And it tells you what page. It'll be the C section at the at page S1. And then the section here is, I think, let's see. So section line has a circle with an arrow, and the arrow points what direction you're going to be looking. And then it has a dotted line that goes toward the house, and then it continues on the other side of the house. I always make them parallel. For some reason, they stagger them sometimes, but they're usually near each other this way. So if you go up, you'll find it. I would think they would have put it here. It's close enough. And so that tells you where it is. This section, the B section, is at the very end of the house. I forget what they're showing here. It's looking this way, so I don't know what that could be. Let's go to the section page. We're going to do sections next, so we might as well do some of it now. Where do you suppose the section is? 8? Another framing plan, 9. Oh, bingo. Okay. Okay, here we are. So here's the A section that was in the building that was going to show the cupola. So this is all that you see if you stand on that section line and look, I forget which way it was, east, I think. You wouldn't see what's in back of you, only what's in front of you looking that way. But they obviously want to show you the details of this cupola. They show you the slope, which is also on the elevation plan, but they show you a little more of the detail of framing. You got this big old honkin', you got joists across here. which is kind of funny that they would have a flat ceiling, isn't it? You would think with a cupola, they would have, they would show the vault, because this house is kind of made of verticalness. Anyway, there's joists and they're hanging a fan from that. But the framing of this, because the main room, the great room, is got vaulted ceilings, they have to show you how that's vaulted. So you got to have a wall that holds that window, and the wall just can't be attached to the roof. So it comes down, and it's got a girder that runs perpendicular to the view. If we looked at the framing plan, we'd see this girder right here running, you know, in and out of this picture. And there's a girder here, and that girder holds up this little wall and a bigger wall on this side. You see that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. And then these ceiling joists, they don't leave this open either. They've got joists. The ceiling actually goes with these ceiling joists, or ceiling rafters, we could call them. So when you look up from the ground, you see this ceiling, and then you see the ceiling in the middle, and then you see this ceiling. It would have been more spectacular to put a bunch of insulation here and have this go all the way up. But, and then they could have put this beam just going across freestanding, you know? That would have been kind of cool. Oh, well. But you would never figure out how that was framed unless you did a section like this, you know, and saw these two beams. Okay, so back to the garage section, which is C down here on the lower left. Oh, they wanted to, there's a little storage loft. That's what they wanted to show. So they couldn't show it from the plan because I guess it goes, well, we'll go back and look at the plan, but it should have a ladder well or some way to get up into it. So it would have a hole in that plan view, you know, a hole in this somewhere to get up, or this loft may not go all the way across. It may just be part of the top of the garage, but that's what they're trying to show. Maybe some of this foundation stuff, but there's probably, yeah, who knows? This kind of thing they would put in a detail also, which we'll look at later. But here's elevations like you did today, cabinet elevation for your kitchen, your little homework assignment. It's going to look like one of these. It's going to be 8'1" tall, 8 foot, whatever that was, 3. Going to have a cabinet, a splash, a mirror. There's a soffit. Do you see the soffit there?
Where is this? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, see, that's all it is. You just see the line. There's a side view of it there. So, yeah. So that's what they did. They have this plan, just like the bathroom we had, and then they have the various elevations. We're only doing one. And then this is that end one at the end of the house. And I think they're showing this kind of, the way this roof is put on. What do they call this? It's like a carousel roof. You know, it's your McDonald's roof coming down, right? Don't those fast food roofs that look like that, aren't those based on carousels? Anybody?
Circus carousel? I don't know.
You know, a merry-go-round has that little apron usually.
Yeah.
That's where I figure it comes from, but who knows? But then they've got that weird prefabricated wood truss that's at an angle. So they want to show you how that, because you want to order it. So they want to show you how that looks. That's why they need a detail for the end of the bedroom there. Okay. And we'll go back to, what did we say the floor plan was, 5 or 6? 6? Living dangerously. Yeah, so here's the garage. And see that they do have the storage must go all the way across so you don't see any lines. So you wouldn't know it was there. But they do have a pull down step here. And it says attic access. So you know there's an attic in here.
Are we supposed to be seeing something, Patrick?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just imagine it, okay? Yeah, so here's that section again in the garage. Now see, this whole thing's an attic storage, but there's no line, so you wouldn't know it unless it mentioned it, but it does show a little hole in that little ceiling for a pull down set of steps. And it says attic access. So you could guess there's going to be right under the triangle, there's going to be a floor for the storage. And then this section for the great room runs, if you go up with it, it's going to run, here's the cupola here. See, here's the line of it. So your line runs just along one end, you're looking that way. So that's how you see all that framing. And then also the girders, notice they're LVL. The girders are that the walls for the cupola sit on that we pointed out. Those are running here. So you just go back and forth with the plans and you go, oh, I see. Okay, this girder.
Question.
Yes.
Those girders, is it showing any like columns or anything supporting them, or are they just attached to the wall to wall?
These go into the walls and they have a post underneath them. And there should be a detail somewhere. But yeah, you can see in the wall there's they've
so that's
darkened a place for a post. Yeah.
Post.
And notice that with LVL, with engineered lumber, they go off the typical dimensional lumber thicknesses. So dimensional lumber is usually like 2x4s, 2x8s, or 1.5. And with various engineered lumbers, they often go wider, like the 1 3/4, maybe to 2.
Well, they go wider a lot of times because
Well, yeah, if it's
doubled.
Yeah,
so you
it could be a
can't-
beam. But see, this is a double. So what they've done is they put 2 of these 1 3/4. So you get a 3.5 inch girder. Doesn't say somewhere it's going to spot out how wide it is. Maybe you could scale off that section view, but probably it should be spelled out somewhere. But where it says double means these are doubled up, which means it's going to look like crap from the bottom to see 2 of these double up. So these are probably faced with finished material, like 1x. These are probably box girders. But they have to be 3.5 wide because there's a 2x4 wall on top of them that goes up to the windows of the cupola. Remember that?
Yeah.
So anything else on here? Oh, this one on the upper right. This section was through here. And they wanted to show that special truss, that slope truss that was along here. Okay. Any questions about that stuff? Of course not. So let me quickly run through, let's see, what time is it? Oh, we're doing okay. Let me quickly show you some of the other elevations in our blueprint resource list. So we'll go to Appleton residence. I think. So this is by Bill Dang, this drawing. This is what you call a really crowded kind of, don't you agree? Kind of floor plan. That's a lot of information. This is partly why he has numbers and a whole notes instead of trying to annotate right on the plan. You couldn't add any more information. It's already too crowded. So sometimes they'll just put numbers and you have to go over here and check. Just because the way it's drawn, he runs out of room. So that's the floor plan. Second floor plan schedule, we'll look at later. Okay, here's an elevation. So let's see. This is the front elevation. And notice that it's got a second story on the left-hand side of the house. Now go back to the floor plan. And you can't tell from this. Right? You can't sort of make your way around where that second story is. So that's why this, it looks like a single floor house. That's just a square box with a little patio for the front door. And then you go to the south elevation and you go, oh my God, or east elevation, you go, oh my God, it's got a second floor. So this, I don't know where the notes are. Oh, down here. Oh, here they are. So 4 exterior plaster. So it's got a stucco finish, or I think that's what that means. Maybe it's a plaster finish. I don't know. This should be like Mexican tile. Oh, metal tile.
How old is this?
Well, it must be pretty old.
It
they don't
says
use metal
aluminum
tile.
window.
Yeah, they don't use metal tile. Let's see what we got here. Um, 09.
Uh,
What's that, 12 years ago? That's not so old. That's relative, right, John? It's old for you guys. It's just a drop in the bucket for us guys. So then it has, this type of stone finish. This looks pandemonious with all these textures, but it's probably not that bad because the roof tiles will you won't notice the detail. It's got like, what is 6, a board and batten? God. Yeah, board and batten. That's kind of weird. So he's for wall texture, he's got board and batten, with the plywood and then a bat over it, a 1x2, or it could be a 1x12 behind it, whatever. And then here he's got stucco, and there he's got stone, and there he's got panel door. That is kind of riotous, isn't it? And then this elevation helps you see how that clarifies stuff. You'd never know. Here you're looking and you say, well, okay, so there's a second story, but how is that related to the first story? Well, bingo, here it is. The back's lined up, but the front, we saw that tile roof, so we knew the front had to be back a little bit. But this tells you how far back it goes. And these things are drawn to scale. There's probably another, if there's a section, I can't remember, we'll look. There might be some dimensions, but these don't give a lot of dimensions. So you might have to scale this where this actually, it might be on a second floor plan. Anyway, let's go back to it. So here's a kind of a trellis over the patio area, bay window. Now here's a section for this house. And the interesting thing with this house, with this architect, is this is I think a preliminary drawing, I'm not sure, but it's very simple. And he doesn't have any framing plans, but you can use these sections for framing plans, because here at 12's 4, 2x12 floor joist, 16 on center. So, you could actually count these and find out how many joists you'd need for this floor. And same with up here, 2x6 rafters. So, he gives you the layout, so you don't really need a framing plan to show it. You can see it from this section. So that's one way of doing it. It's not the most common way, but so all these different sections show things that can't be seen from the outside, or like here it shows an attic space that you wouldn't see from a floor plan. Let me go back to the floor plan. So here's the second floor lower roof plan. So it's the second floor, and then there's roof coming down away from it. Looks like there's a gable. Usually you can spot the ridges to gables because they're in the center of a building. They're equidistant from each side. That looks like it might be, the same distance both ways. That's probably the gable there.
Why does it say to verify those slopes, like the kind of where you just were. Like it says, it's giving the slope there. Yeah, right there. It says verify.
Yeah. Well,
Architect,
the only thing I can think of is if this was a remodel and the original plans may have said 612, say they got the original plans. But sometimes when carpenters build, they make mistakes and they're a little off. And so it could be a little slightly different than 612. So you'd go up on the roof and we've got these slope gauges and you double check, make sure it wasn't 6.5 to 12.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because you'd be surprised how things are off a little bit.
I mean, I know sometimes guys just want to get it done, get out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the roofing material throws the slope off a little bit, because you're kind of bridging around shingle sections, and there's different reasons. But I always check, and I find roofs are a little off all the time when I'm remodeling or tearing down. So yeah. So here's sections. Again, you've got the circle with the arrow. It's on page A6, which was down there. C, section C, section B, section A is going the other way. Now see, these go all the way through and they have a arrow, circle and arrow on both sides. Sometimes they have it on one side and it goes through and they have that little L-shaped line. The end of it kind of thickens and goes this way. So there's different ways they show those. But always looking this way, and this one is B, always they're trying to show something that you wouldn't see otherwise. And maybe it's just the various framing, the floors, because that's what those show. They didn't particularly show fireplace or details. They were mainly kind of how thick the floors were. So maybe he's using these sections for framing. I mean, look at how complicated this house is, right? Look at if you look this way from this A, looking up here, you have all this, there's a wall here, so you wouldn't see, you'd only see a door. You'd see this, what is this here? 2. It's a water heater. Why is that water heater there? Oh, who knows? Oh, it's a garage, that's right. And you'd see a lot of stair detail. Maybe this one, that's where we saw the stair detail. So let's go back. Does this make you guys dizzy when we go back? So yeah, here's the stairway. So maybe he wanted to show how the stairway was going to work. And garage, it doesn't show the hot water heater. So he's not really trying to show much except framing. So it looks like, unless there's a loft, like sometimes there's a loft that you can't tell. Like, attics, sometimes people have attics, sometimes they have a cathedral ceiling with no attic. And sometimes there's no way to tell that except you have by a section.
Hey, Patrick, what's the
Yes.
difference between a cathedral, a vaulted, and a volume ceiling?
What was the last one? Volume?
Volume.
Wow, I've never heard that.
Rodney keeps using the term volume ceiling for any ceiling that's up to the max one. I don't quite understand it.
Maybe he means vaulted. Maybe he just confuses those two. They used to only say cathedral ceiling when I was through most of my carpentry career, and vaulted's only about the last 10 or 15 years. And all the home shows call it vaulted now. You rarely hear cathedral. So that just usage is changing. They're the same. They mean the same. Cathedral comes from the cathedrals that didn't have ceilings, right? When you get at the bottom of the cathedral, they wanted you to look up toward heaven. So they made the tops way up there with a vault, no attic. Just the ceiling went all the way up. So that's where they got the word cathedral ceiling. And vaulted, cathedrals are vaulted, like they have Roman round vaults or pointed Gothic vaults. So I guess that's where they get the word vaulted too, but it's kind of interesting where they come from. Yeah, they're interchangeable though, as far as I can see. I know all the shows I look at, the real estate and building shows, they pretty much call them vaulted ceilings now. So maybe that's just the trend.
I tried Googling it, but there's technical terms for all of them. They do mean different stuff, but not in common construction language.
Right, right. So, you know, in roof framing where they call a slope a pitch. So
Yeah.
that's ordinary parlance also. We call anything that's sloped, it's pitched, you know, to pitch a tent and a pitch of something, but there's a technical difference there, as you know. The pitch in roof framing is a totally different concept in terms of numbers and span than a slope. I tell students not to ever use the word pitch because it's in carpentry terms, because it's confusing. And we almost all just use slope now. But that's another, you know, sometimes there's these technicalities, but because common usage is so different, they go with common usage because otherwise everybody would, you know, be confused like you are. Okay, so what do we got next? Chumash 1, okay. So this is, oh, look at this elevation. This is pretty complicated, right? It's got a long building this way, and then it's broken up by a, you know, a gable end building that goes the other way. But then it's got a staggered roof. And if you look at the sideways, this is that long area here, this part right here. And then this part is shown by this. And that's got another thing sticking out. So it's pretty complicated elevation. And this is the wrong drawing. So let me go to, real quick, go to this one. I've got two of the Chumash. One I had when I just showed something. Oh, wait. Okay. So site plan. Oh yeah, this is a partial site plan, but this shows the roof plan. Sometimes people will have a separate roof plan, but he puts it in with the site, with other site features. So this is actually helps you most see the building. So you've got this long axis going this way, and then you've got an axis going this way. It's not quite a cross. A lot of times Hispanic and Indian buildings will be Christian oriented and they'll have a cross, but this is not really, it's offset too much. So it's got a plan going this way, it's got a building going this way, and then when this building this way gets here, it opens up both sides. You know, it does some weird stuff. So they have intersecting roofs, and then it's got a roof, a little bit of a room above that we saw. So this roof plan really helps you. And then it's got a jog here. I mean, it's, I don't know, I guess it's pretty complicated. Oh, it's an office building, no wonder. This must be their administrative. Oh, it's a learning center. Oh, okay. So this is that same, but you'd have to go back and forth from that roof plan to this and down to the floor plan to really, here's another roof plan that doesn't help much, but it shows you what's underneath the roof, which may be helpful. And then ceiling plan and sections. These sections help you see what trusses are going where. And even though they have these sections, they'll have a detail here that they want to go to what's that?
7.
Is that a 7? Yeah, A7.0, the third detail. And there's something there they want to show you.
420.
This shows there's a skylight here and there's an attic. So you have to get from the attic to the hallway. So they do these walls of the skylight come down at an angle so that they're just the same size as this opening. They used to be done a lot. Now we have solar. Now we have a solar tube that you can just put here and wiggle around until where you want it. It's not as big, but. So you need all these sections because this floor plan is so complicated on this. That was A7. So if we go to A7, which is a detail page, oh, here's a solar tube. So now see, they call it solar tube, but the other thing had this pretentious name that I can never remember. But this is just a flexible reflective material, and the sunlight comes in and just bounces off all these walls and comes out really bright down here. I've got a couple of these in my house. They're actually great because if you don't have a clear shot, this one you could have just put a window and put just walls up here. But if this was in the way, the framing, the truss, or it was where you wanted to come down was way over here, you brought this way over and there was no way to come straight down. These are really good for that because you can pretty much put it where you need it and where you need it on the roof. A great invention, not that old. But those details we looked at, I forget what the numbers were, but they were on this page. They were connections. Looks like it might have been this one. We could go back. When we get to details, we'll look at it, but anything else down here? No, the rest of it's just, yeah, here's some bathroom elevations. Yeah, if you want to get a picture of a toilet for your exercise, there's one there. You could also just do anything. Okay. So here's the floor plan and here's a section. Where is it? See, I can find see this line here? This is the other end of a section. You can always, that's the thing that stands out the most. So there's one section going through this, and it probably is the one that shows the roof trusses. That's probably why they're doing that. This one should be a section. Let's see if there's not a, oh, here it is. The other end of it. So there's a section through this thing, which also is probably the truss plan. So you see where they have sections? Are you all getting kind of familiar with that?
Yes.
So they're just places that you need to see inside the building because the elevations cut it off and the floor plans are hopeless. You can't really visualize. So a section just adds more information. We'll skip the Laguna Blanca for now. So these are plans I made for at the Wake Center, the two cargo bins here and here. And then we did a framing. We did a little roof between them with some translucent corrugated. It would look like this. Here was the, no, this was the bin here. And we had a roof over it and then an open area in the middle like this. So this is an elevation. Oh, here's the last project I did at my house. We're going to look at this because this tells you a lot of stuff about what you have to turn in for inspection, the building department. So we'll look at this then. But same thing, you got elevations. There's no way you could show this balcony without
Patrick, we can't see what you're seeing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why didn't you say that before?
All right.
My fault. Sorry.
There we go.
So here's that. If you've been to the Wake Center, you know right next to the tiny homes, this little, it's two cargo containers from the harbor, and then we just framed over a work area. Of course, we filled it up with junk because we don't have any storage. And then at my house, I did a balcony, and this actually all this stuff I want to show you when Donna explains the whole procedure for getting a permit. right, Donna? And then, so it's got elevations that show this balcony, and then it's got a framing one that shows a slope. And here's what it looked like before. So you have to do it before and after. We kind of eliminated that and brought this down and made a balcony on there. And then remember that the pergola that's over at the Wake Center by the candy machines?
Yeah.
So these were the elevations, some of the elevations for that. But we'll look at that stuff more when we get into making your own plans. Okay, so actually, I think that's all we're going to do on, because we looked at the sections, why we looked at the elevations, right? So that's all I'm going to talk about tonight. I'm going to let you go. But if you want to, the thing to do now after each session is to go back and look at the plans that you have and just study them. Just, any free time you have, get on your computer, look at those, see if you can translate from an elevation to a floor plan and get familiar with that. That's something you could do on your own if you want to get better at this. And then you might generate some questions. You might come up against some things. Well, what is this? How does this work here? And then I can tell you that next time. Ask that question next time. Yeah? Because, I look at them and I tell you the things that I notice on them that can throw you, but, we don't want to spend 6 hours on a elevation or a section. So I'm going to leave it at that. And then you guys, and as we do details and stuff, we'll go back to sections and elevations, because eventually we're going to show you how we have to use all of the plan to narrow down to get information. Some things take every single view to make it intelligible. And that's what we're heading for. We still have details and schedules. We still have a few more types of plans. And then we're going to start, looking at a whole set and see how we can find out how certain things are built. Because that's what you're ultimately going to do. How's that sound? Good?
Like it.
Okay. So this wasn't so bad, right? Elevation and sections.
No.
You can see how you're getting a lot of information from those sections that you couldn't get, and the elevations are things you couldn't get from a floor plan. So elevations and floor plans kind of tell you the shape of the house. Those two really work together. And the sections just give you a little more detail on the inside, what's going on inside. Any general questions? So I'll put some, the homework will just be those things that you did, the written homework, the little exercise you were doing with the bathroom elevation and the other one. Finish those up. And then I'll, let's see, next week is details and foundation plans. I don't think I have a handout for those. We're to go right into the prints. And yeah, the book I used didn't have any good sections on those. So, but foundations is another one. That's what underlies the floor plan. So those they have to match up too. So we'll look at those two, and then any questions you have from this week, we'll cover then. Okay, and I'll come up with a blog question for you. On the blog, the three of you that did it got the math right, of course. That was great. And all your answers were true. I was looking for a different answer, but it was a long shot. On the second question was about
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5, yeah. And what I was looking for, I mean, your answers were right. You can answer things different ways. But what I was looking for was, there's only 2 triangles that have whole numbers for all 3 sides, 3, 4, 5, and 12, 13, and the other one's 5, 12, and 13, or something like that. I forget. In all of triangledom, There's only those two. Every other triangle has a decimal, like 4.5 for one side, 6 for another, 3.2 for the third side. Interesting, huh? There's only two in all of the possible triangles that have even numbers for all three sides. That means if you use those, and the second one's too long, it's a longish triangle, it's not practical. The 3, 4, 5s, you know, the numbers are all close together, so it's kind of a squarish, it's kind of a compact triangle. Excellent for what you guys use it to make right angles. But what I was driving at is the whole numbers are what makes it unique and useful. Because when you're, you know, doing your tape, you don't want to be fooling with 3.1 feet, you know. And if you did that on a Pythagorean theorem or used your calculator, you get decimals. You don't want to be laying out decimals. That's suicidal. You want whole numbers. So 3, 4, 5 is perfect for that. It's always going to be multiples of 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, whatever the next set are. And you can't go wrong. So that's why they use that. It's the most accessible triangle there is for right angle, making a right angle. Okay. So carry on, do the blog if you so inclined. I like what you guys were saying about the blog. I like how you're doing it. Some of you are bouncing off each other. It's great. And we'll just have, we won't have a reading assignment because there's no handouts. If you want to look at the foundation and details on your various plans, you can, but you know, if you're busy, don't do it. Do what other stuff you need to do, because we'll just go over in class and you can ask questions then anyway. So don't burden yourself unless you have the time and you really just want to poke around at it. Okay.
Yeah.
So if there are no more questions, Donna, no questions? Oh, let me take roll.
No, but it was good. It was a good lecture.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, what do I do with my roll sheet? God. I'm so dangerous. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, Miguel, I thought I saw your,
Right here.
oh yeah, hi. Okay, and Jesus, are you here? Barreto? Alex here, Donna's here, Hamar's here. Marcos said he was going to a funeral. Colby, you're here. Hugo's here. I believe I saw Eric. Yes.
Here.
Yeah. And Dylan's here, I think, right? Yeah, Dylan's here. Edward, no, Kevin.
I'm here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Edward, but you're not related. So
No,
at least that's what you tell me.
no, we're not.
How many Nolasco families could there be in the greater Santa Barbara area? I ask you.
Yeah.
Your families aren't even distantly related?
No, not at all.
You probably came from the same town 500 years ago in somewhere. Okay, Duke's here. Brandon's here. D'Angelo's here. John's here. Michael Silva, I think you're here, right? Michael, you're here? Jose Nunez, are you here?
Yeah, right.
Of course. John Tapia, and Jacob's here. Okay, great. Anybody not hear their name? Okay. I think we're good. And Lindsay and Katie and Debbie were here, so. The crew. Okay, so that's it. So go enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you in a week, okay?
All right. Thanks, Patrick.
All right. See you,
Bye-bye,
Patrick.
guys.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Patrick.
Patrick.
Okay, bye. Question?
Well, that's kind of weird. What was that?
Was someone trying to, maybe it's Debbie. Debbie, did you have a question for me? Debbie?
No, I didn't. I think it was just an echo.
Oh,
It
okay.
was someone saying goodbye and it was an echo.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Mhm.
How come she's smarter than we are?
I won't say anything, but I have some theories.
Yeah.
All right. So everything's good with you? You're
Yeah.
happy with the book? How
Yeah.
close are you to being done?
With
The book.
the book,
Yeah.
the one I'm writing,
Yeah.
I've got the preface, chapter 1 and 2 done. And I've got just 2 more chapters and a conclusion. So I'm halfway done. But it's,
Pretty good.
you know, it's on truth. I always take real limited topics, you know. And so the first one was just a lot of stuff I say, but even though the books overlap, I always say it differently. I never read a book. I always actually try to improve it, what's in my mind. So one's general, and then the one on, I've never gone into history this deep. So I read a lot of philosophy of history books. I found some guys that are pretty cool. They're not great because they're not philosophers. They kind of miss some things, but it's the most I've ever written about history. And I think it's really important. And then the next one's on science. And I'm not a scientist, but I've, taken a lot of philosophy of science over the years. That's going to be a lot of research. But the thing I like is where scientists make mistakes and don't use logic right, which they do. And then the last one's on social planning, which is also huge. I have to figure out what I want to say about that. But the history one was kind of fun, just trying to think what history really is. It's so much a part of human life, but we're kind of not real clear about what it actually is and what we can say about it. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's useful, I mean, we may not learn from our mistakes, but just to see where things came from. Sometimes you think things just appear automatically from God or our biology or whatever, and
Yeah.
almost everything we've created. And if we learn about where it was created and maybe even why, and we do know that a lot of times, I think it helps us see it's not so absolute, and maybe we could come up with an alternative to it if it was causing damage. So that's why I think it's important to understand. But I read all these guys and they get confused too, the historians. It's not, some things are so close to us, we just have trouble talking about them for some reason.
Well, a lot of history, especially in high school and lower, it's very whitewashed. I mean, even now, it's still pretty bad.
Yeah. And I mentioned that too, and I'm going to mention it in the social planning too, that's really important as the way we teach history, because we've done a horrible job. It's whitewashed. Even when it's not whitewashed, it's not careful. It's often wrong or sloppy. And we can't settle for that, because we don't think of it as truth, like scientific truth. And it is truth. It's not as certain, but it's still got we have a lot of ways of making it pretty good. And we have to take it more seriously, because it can help us, and it can also, hide things from us and make it worse. Oh, you know what I did?
What?
We had a in-service recently. I don't know what, usually they're before the semester, but things are really screwed up in the world. So we just had it 4 weeks in, last Friday or the Friday before, I can't remember. And the president talked, Goswami. We have a new president, Utpal Goswami. And I took him on a tour of Wake to show him the construction academy. And he had construction, so we kind of hit it off a little bit, being two builders. And you'd never guess he had done construction, but he has. He's built a few houses. And but in this talk, it was pretty boring. The in-service was horribly boring. But he said one thing at the end. He said, we need to do something at SBCC that's important and unique. And he said, maybe like a school within a school. And my ears just shot right up. And I thought about that. And so I wrote him a letter last night. I sent an email to him. And I told him what I've been looking into, bioregional stuff. And I've been eventually wanting to start a bioregional center. I suggested we do that at City College. So, and I said also that I'm not sure that's what he meant, but I was going for it anyway. And then I said I had some books I could send them, you know, to flesh it out so you could get more. I said, you probably know what bioregionalism is, but my take on it is a little unique, and I could send you these. So I'm waiting to hear back from him. I'll send them.
So would that be based at the Wake Center or something?
Well, you know, so at the beginning, but of course I've been thinking just like you are, yeah, Wake Center would be perfect.
Yeah.
Because
It's a
everything else is
room.
kind of possessive territory on main campus. You're never going to budge any of that. But Wake Center would be perfect, you know, because part of the bioregional center, in my view, is also a place where you can experiment with things and display things. And that'd be perfect. We could take one of those parking lots and make a lot of, you know, the latest low-tech solar stuff and whatever. And there's a lot of classrooms that can be shifted around. You know, people use them, but they're not fixed. They could be shifted. So yeah, that's, if he goes for it all, that would be the first thing I would talk about is, yeah, let's, but, you know, I told him, you know, my years at City College, I felt that we accept the status quo of the country and the world, and we accept that people are going to work in that. So we train people to work within that status quo. But I said, things are changing so fast that that's going to be outmoded before long. I said, we need to actually take some time and look at what future we want, not what future is going to happen. Let's not be passive about it, but let's be proactive and say, well, okay, this is the future we want. This is the future we're kind of heading toward timidly, you know, with all the civil rights stuff and sustainability stuff. We're kind of heading there, but we're not just hitting it, you know, like we need to do. Time's running out. So I said, you know, I've always wanted to get a bigger picture going here. I've been on the head of teaching and learning committees, and all they want to talk about is, you know, classroom stuff, you know, and they don't want any big picture. I've never been able to convince a dean or a department head to entertain that. And part of it is they're so damn busy with curriculum because a lot of them are trying to push people into sciences at the university, which require a lot of preparation, so they can't fuck around with that. And so I understand that. And I told them that. I said, I understand why they're that. But I said, you know, we're up against a wall now. We're in a fixed. And this is a place where a lot of people pass through on the way to the university. Sometimes this is it. You know, the vocational people, this is it. And I said, we have a chance to get them thinking as citizens in a new direction that we need. And I said, that's what I think, you know, and I think if he's trying to make a name for himself and do something special for this school, he needs something that bold to do it. Just fooling around on the edges isn't going to do it, you know. And I think he is bored with that too. I'm reading a lot into him just from a few words, but we'll see.
One of the things that drives different classes is most people that come to CC want to transfer to somewhere.
Yeah,
not all of them do, but many of them want to.
Sure.
And so that IGETC decides what classes they take.
Yeah.
And for the UC system, they're very strict compared to the CSU, right?
Right.
So if you can convince the CSU or the UC system to include that for one of the general ed categories,
yes,
then you get a chance. But if you don't have that, then
that's right. That's right. So it could be a general ed, it could be a requirement that everybody has to take on top of their classes.
Yeah.
It just could be a very small class one semester, or, you know, or part of a semester. There's a million ways you could structure it, but you're right. It'll have to be that direction rather than in the class, because they have too much to do. I do it in my classes because you know, it's already going in a sustainable direction, so I can just take off on that. And I have more latitude because there's so much to teach. You never, you know, you can cut it off wherever you want to. There's no, you know, you know how it's really flexible that way because there's so much to know. You're never going to get it anyway, all of it anyway. But so I understand. I mean, I was on these committees with teachers of a cross section, so I know that it's a problem, and I have sympathy for that. But the opportunity is so important that we've got to make it work. And like, you know, you came up, See, that's the thing. If once you get the thing out there, guys like you will just take it and fly. You're already asking the right questions. It's so amazing. So it's really, my wife says, "Oh, you can't do that." And I says, "No, not the way people think right now. No one's going to go for it, but we got to get this discussion." And then it's always a trade-off. Well, are you willing to give up this for this? I said, I want to put a mall along Los Positos all the way to the beach from the freeway. Grass mall, no traffic, you got to go around. Then I want people with bike lanes, and I want people to walk and picnic and go from town to the beach and make it a real procession, things like that I think about. And having been to Greece and places, and Europe does a lot of that. It's not like I didn't invent this. Europe has piazzas and places where cars can't go. It creates a different kind of society. So sure, we're giving up convenience, but aren't we a little tired of what convenience has done for us? I want things where people can build their character. And so I said, well, yeah, people are going to object to that. You get it out there, and then you have a debate. You have a year-long debate from the businessmen and the architects and the people who want to get from A to B, and we figure out if we can do it. And then it will involve sacrifices. But unless they know what they're gaining and they have that, get a dose of that vision, of course it won't work. My wife's so practical. She's always the first one to say, no one's ever going to go for that. And I go, not right now, they're not. I realize that.
Well, it's here in Santa Barbara, there's a potential for demand because a bunch of our downtown businesses, they rely on income from tourism, right?
Yes, yes.
So any sort of destination thing, we already see the bike rentals, what are the things with the 4 seats they ride? There's
Yeah.
demand for people to ride around on bikes.
Yes,
in Santa Barbara.
yes, yes. We could have
And-
trams. I mean, that's why Europe's such a nice center, because you go to these big piazzas, in Italy and France, and, everybody's out there and they're serving food, and, it's just a very civic thing. I really love it. And we
Yeah.
don't have so much here. We do in places, but I would take the Cabrillo down at the beach and State Street and make that where you start the wharf, make that all a big piazza, and you have to drive around it. And that would be so much fun. And you could make it so that tourists can get there. You have a lot of public transportation, trams and little cars. Yeah. But that's we've got such beautiful spots. Another one is the Douglas Family Preserve, old, what was the old name? Wilcox.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable site. And most Santa Barbara's don't even know about it and go there. But that up on the bluff, and you can see the islands, and you can see Henry's Beach from the inn. I mean, that's an incredible place.
I went on the first date with my wife there.
I went on the first date with Noriko there too. That's incredible. Yeah, it's a special place. It's really gorgeous. And you could have educational things, like right down below in Henry's was where our Chumash made their canoes to go out to the islands. And then you can see the islands. So you could include little history signs, and I mean, there's so much potential. This town is not realizing its potential at all. This town is just kind of come what may, and it's such an incredible place. We could make it a world-class destination, and everybody would really be happy then. So that's the kind of stuff I want to do, along with local direct democracy, which is another thing. People go, "Oh my God, are you kidding?" Yeah, it's outrageous. It didn't faze the ancient Greeks, but to us, it's outrageous for some reason.
No, Santa Barbara has not monopolized it all. But when I first met Kendra, I had an office in San Jose. I'd
Yeah.
go up there and I'd work 2 or 3 days a week, sometimes all week, and then come down here for the weekend. And
Yeah,
she would come up like, "Oh, let's go to San Francisco. Let's go ride the trolley car. Let's go to
yeah,
the pier and stuff." And to me, it's like, oh, I've gone there a couple of times, but it was such a draw. Oh, let's go walk
Yeah.
across the Golden Gate Bridge.
right.
And it worked, and people want to see stuff. They want to do things like that because it's interesting.
And I think that, I like that because I like tourists. I like the tourist industry. It's kind of fun to me. And if you can avoid that. Santa Barbara's so big and sprawled out. If you don't want to have contact with that, perfect. You don't really have to. But also, I want us to get together and come up with ideas about improving the town, and we can make the town more sustainable. We could actually do some very innovative stuff here that the whole world would look at and go, wow, they're really hauling ass down in Santa Barbara. That would be great. It's all the potential is unbelievable. And I think it'd really be fun. It'd make it much more fun to live here if we could do that stuff. So
Well,
anyway, I'm hoping, I haven't been able to find a venue. Did you ever meet Balete, the student, the Ethiopian student?
I don't think so.
He's been in America most of his life, but he's Ethiopian, and he lives near the Wake Center a little bit. And I got to know him. We've become pretty good friends. And he got an environmental degree at Antioch recently. And so he said, oh, I got this teacher that's teaching environmental stuff. You should hook up with her. So I sent her the democracy book, What Democracy Must Mean. And I thought, God, that should really get her going to want to do something. And of course I think it was during the beginning of the pandemic. And she said, well, let's talk about it later. I'm kind of busy now. And she didn't seem really enthused, which was disappointing because I thought maybe I could make an inroad in Antioch and get that department behind me. But he still wants to get us together. But, if a person doesn't jump on it, they're not that interested, or they don't have the creativity or the interest to do it. So I kind of ruled out City College because I don't like a lot of the teachers at City College. And, I thought, fuck, what a place. But if I got an administrator behind me, he could make things happen, by fiat. He could just, and especially at the Wake Center where that wouldn't really rattle that many people. That's probably the most plausible plan I could make, So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. He may write back and go, oh, no, I wasn't thinking about that at all. I was thinking about, blah, blah, blah. And I'll just look kind of embarrassed and go, oh, okay.
Well, I'm thinking people are getting cabin fever right now, right?
Yes. Oh, God.
And they're gonna want to go out and do something. Hopefully,
Yeah.
maybe there's more possibilities for some of these things. You just got to pique people's interest,
Yeah.
But that's the hard thing. People don't want emails. They don't necessarily want calls.
Well, in that democracy book, I think I start to talk about Santa Barbara and what could be done here. And then in the book after that, the one called The Three Values of the Human Condition, Three Absolute Values, I think I'm getting my books mixed up. That's a bad sign. But I think one of them, I actually talk about the future and about what Santa Barbara actually did. It was really fun doing that. And I mean, that's a kind of a snapshot of what could be, I've spilled out a lot of, the details. That's as far as I can go because it's stupid to do anymore because it's up to everybody. And there's a lot of things I don't know that could also be in it, but it's a start. And I just need to get people to think about that. So I was going to have a class in that at the Wake Center, a one-on class or maybe a series, like we have these outside speakers, and do that based on a book or two. That was my plan, but maybe Goswami maybe he'll like it and we can plan that together. That would accomplish more, But
Yeah.
we'll see. You never know where stuff's going to go. It's so frustrating because I've thought all my whole life, I've thought about this stuff. And so I know how to think and write. Well, I've trained myself to write, but selling stuff is not my cup of tea. I'm just not a salesman. And even to line things up, I'll go talk with things, but even to find out where to talk and do all that, that's work for me. That's 100 times more work than writing a fucking book. So I always hoped I would get somebody to help me, and I thought maybe my stepson would help, but he flew the coop and really doesn't want to do any of that. And then, so I've just kind of been waiting, and I've been of course, the pandemic's put everything on kind of a hold, and I just kept writing, which is good because it helps flesh it out. But I'm really kind of getting ready when this is over to try to attract other people,
Yeah.
So maybe this will pan out. We'll see.
Well, do you have an easier time getting non-credit classes? Is it something you could theoretically get a class in eventually, like you did with Carol's class?
Yeah, I could, yeah, non-credit is easy to get. And I could get something going there too, in that direction. You know, I was gonna do the one-off class because that draws from the community. And it also gives you an indication of what interest is out there. And if that was, my plan was if that was big, then I could think about doing a, 16-week class or 8-week class on it. But here's the problem with non-credit. I don't know how attached to programs they are. They go back and forth. The state's schizophrenic about it. At first, they wanted them under they wanted all of them under a credit program. They would just be a non-credit side of that credit program. And so I had to deal with all the non-credit construction classes when I was chair. But now they've shifted and they want to give the non-credit more autonomy. And so they're kind of pulling away. They're put under the programs nominally, administratively, but they're really more disconnected than they used to be. Because you've got all this turf protection. If I want to do a class that talked about,
you're still recording, by the way.
yeah, okay. I'll just wait. If I want to do a class about environmental stuff, then I'd be stepping on Adam Green's turf, and he'd say, "Oh, you're not qualified to teach that." And although with credit, I would never be able to. Philosophy would complain. I mean, it would be political science would complain because I cover all the fields. So everybody would be saying, "Nah." But non-credit, I might be able to get away with that.
What would you call the class? If you could?
Well, I think bioregionalism is the core, and it covers everything. It's a way of life. So it would cover governing. It would cover economics. It would cover sustainability. It would cover consciousness change. Underline all that. So, but it would have those. I mean, there's just nitty stuff with economics and education. It would make changes in too. I envision a center with a lot of material that teachers can come and read and adapt their programs to it, not to take anything verbatim, but just to get an idea and then take it back to their classroom. I don't want to lord it over anybody with ideas. I just want them to get exposed to it and then run with it. I think they're important ideas, so I hope, I would do more to encourage them if they didn't take off right away. But, the whole thing about bioregional is that you're including you're making it more participatory democracy. So you're including many more, hopefully everybody in the decision-making, which has its downside. It's more cumbersome and slower, but its upside is you get your world the way you want it, instead of.
I before I met my wife, the girlfriend had before her, she was studying at UCSB and something, and basically they're studying society in third world countries, and she was going over to China and India and some other ones, where certain areas and they were doing studies.
Yeah.
And I don't know what major that was called, but it kind of falls under that.
There's a lot of majors. Geography actually covers a lot of that. There's different types of geography. Whoever thinks about geography, right? But I had a high school student when I was at Oak Grove that went into geography at Berkeley, and I used to talk to her about the content. It's a umbrella topic, so it covers a lot of things, and they have specialties, but it's real broad. So it could have been geography, but almost everybody, anthropology, sociology, could have people go to study people in other places. Environmental, it could be an environmental thing if that's what they were looking at.
I think she ended up getting a job with the UN and going to Africa somewhere or something.
Yeah, like what's the organization, UNESCO? Parts of the UN do a lot of that kind of work. That would be great work too. It's always, really positive, helpful work. Yeah, but we don't have a forum. we've left a lot of decision-making to specialists who have obviously been making a lot of bad decisions in the last 100 years. So that on the face of it should clue us that maybe that's not the best idea. And because of that, we kind of consider ourselves dumb and the specialists have to do all this stuff. That's one of the unnoticed and worst things that's happened to us as a culture and worldwide. And we have to take that back. I want people to be smarter and to be thinking about things, knowing that they can contribute as much as anybody. I like the things you and all the people in my class have said over the years, as much as I like anything I've heard. So I know that everybody has that in them. It's been beat out of them with the way we do culture. And that's no good because we don't get what we want and we get crazy shit, and that's got to end.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be fun for everybody to get involved and plan the freaking future that we all want, And there'll be places where everybody will want something to be okay, and there'll be obviously places where there'll be a lot of conflict, And we just have to, democracies have to work that out. But having more control over I can't stand how little control we have, how our local government gives us very little control. I mean, you ever been to a council meeting?
I have.
Oh, fuck. They sit there boringly listening to everybody, and then they go and make their own decisions. I mean, it's the most fucked up thing I've ever seen.
Unless you know someone on the council, you
Right.
have zero.
Right. I know. Or you have something on, you have some wedge that you could, a power wedge. Like a UC system. I went to a thing once where the Galita was complaining about UC doing certain things. And they came, this was unbelievable. And they came and they said, well, you understand, we have to talk about the structure here. You understand that UC system is not under any other jurisdiction in the state. We are our own jurisdiction and we do what we want. And they said, so you can fight us and we'll just do what we want, or you can join us and maybe tweak what we want to fit you. It's up to you. I thought, oh, that's not good. So even though they run a great school and it's got a lot of environmental stuff, it's too big. They're expanding too big for this area. It's not ecologically sound. And but no one's going to stop them because we have our city government's too weak. I mean, maybe that's a setup, but we could change that setup. People change setups all the time. They go, this is bullshit. If enough people up and down the state said, this is bullshit, the local jurisdictions have to have more say in what happens to their community because of UC schools, you bet it would change. We can change it.
It's nuts because I've done in the past a bunch of work out on the facility housing stuff.
Yeah.
They don't have to go to building code. They have their own inspectors.
Yeah, I know.
And they just come like, who is the electrician? Who is the plumber? Okay, and they sign off.
See, that's the kind of crap we deal with. That's not, you want local people to do things the way it should be done locally. I mean, there's state and international standards, of course, but within that, we've got to have more local control, and they just run roughshod the UC system, and that's got to stop.
And the kids that come from UCSB and they go into Santa Barbara City, they go to the bars, they go to, we have no control.
Yeah.
How many kids go there? Nothing. And we get to pay for the consequences.
Right. They don't wear masks. They don't social distance. They spread the fucking disease.
Yeah.
I know. Well, we can bemoan that forever, but we could also do something about it and make local government more strong and get more input from local people,
Yeah.
So, and I think we could do a direct democracy. And I think we could show the world that we just jumped from ancient Athens and skipped the whole Middle Ages and Renaissance and Enlightenment, modern times, and got to to a new place. But but I would love, this place has got so much potential. I mean, and it would be really fun for everybody to be proud of a city that was actually an innovator in sustainability and, ways of doing things. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So I just got to get people with like minds. I've got you. You're on board with all that. And, a lot of my students have over the years. I've lost track of some of them, but a key administrator would be really great.
Yeah. Well, you can always hope for the best. I mean, but I'm sure with all the things going on with COVID, there's probably a lot on them. So it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah, I told him that. I even said, I don't know if you have any time to read because you must be unbelievably busy. But if you do, I got some books I'd like you to look at. I don't know anything about this guy except he's worked at some unique, almost hippie-ish places in Prescott, Arizona, which is a town that's got all kinds of alternative stuff going on. So I think he may have a kind of a little alternative side to him. And he's an economist. He's been is educated as an economist, which is not my favorite thing, but it could be handy in changing a local economy, So we'll see.
well, even just through the construction program, a lot of these guys, especially if their dads are construction or something, this is why they're ended up going through it. Some of the ideas that you're introducing them to, this is probably the first time they've really thought of green building this way, or
Yeah,
and it's it's you have to applaud any progress, because if you start, oh well, we have to have this exact amount of progress or we're not doing anything,
Yeah.
it has a long-term effect, and
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, Carol's been working, I've been talking to Carol recently. She's getting real frustrated with the county and the cities. What they're doing now is because Habitat for Humanity closed,
yeah.
what they're doing is they're taking all their stuff to Marburg, and Marburg's just signing off their recycle reuse obligation. And then they're just trashing it, most of it. That's fraudulent.
Yeah.
I said, Carol, you got to expose this, but you'll be what do you call it?
Martyr.
No, the person that tells, what do you call
A snitch.
yeah, snitch, but we got a nicer name for it now,
A whistleblower.
Whistleblower, thank you. I said, you'll be a whistleblower with all the hardship that brings, but you got to decide whether you want to do that. But we know it's corrupt what's going on, and it's filling our landfill, and it's just bullshit. It's all bullshit.
It's one of those things. So she whistleblows, let's say, and all of a sudden no one else ever goes to her thing again because everyone
Yeah.
goes against her. And
Yeah, that's
and
right.
so what's a greater environmental
Well,
impact?
that's
No
what
one's going to her.
that's what we're talking about. So I said, you probably don't, you're too old. You probably don't want to go to the whistleblowing hell, but you also can gently tell people that it's not right what's going on. We have to do better. But when you get into trash, there's a lot of money in trash. She was talking about friends back east that are telling her, yeah, it's kind of a mafia setup in most places, and you got to be careful what you get. That's so discouraging.
Where I grew up in Lake County, that literally was the mafia. There's
Yeah.
a guy, there's an
Yeah,
Italian
big
guy
money.
from back
Anywhere
in
there's money,
town
that's just money and trash. So, but that's another thing. If we had local government, that could address that, we could do a lot better.
Why
we
don't
would
we
have-
have a county trash company?
Well, why do we have a county trash company?
Why don't we have a government trash?
I don't know. I mean, the county has by the jail, they have a, what do you call it? The place where you go and then they
The
ship that to
transfer
the
station.
transfer station. Thank you. And she's been trying to get them to have a reuse place up there with a refurbishing center, so they can take a lot of this stuff, redo some of it, sell it to contractors and homeowners, and dent some of the landfill. And she's worked on this for 5 or 10 years, and the county is so out of it, they can't ever go forward with it. And now they're all worried about the pandemic, so they're not thinking about anything else. But she brought a guy onto her show. I don't know if you attended that class or that session, from Urban Ore in Berkeley. Guy's got a huge warehouse he's had for 50 years, and he collects stuff from everybody, refurbishes some of it, sells it to homeowners and people with a little bit of.
I think we may have seen the YouTube video because he wasn't available.
Yeah. So we need that, and then I look at this. Your wife may look at this. I don't know what it's on streaming, but it's also on cable. our hometown. It's a couple, Ben and Aaron from the South, from Mississippi, with Laurel, Mississippi. And they're fixing up their town one house at a time. And they do great work. And he has a shop and he takes material from the remodel and makes furniture and barnwood walls and everything out of, he always has stuff in the house that he's refurbished. And he's got a shop and it's right, that's it. It's one man, but that's the idea right there. And it would happen in the South because that's the way they are down there. I've lived down there and it's also rural, you know, they don't throw shit away. They use stuff. It's an old thing that we've lost in urban areas. And I think that's where we need to go back to, you know, you could make more interesting stuff, artistic stuff. This stuff's great. You got to look at, they stream, they're probably on YouTube too. Our Hometown, I think is the name of it. First I thought he's got this big beard. I thought, oh God, here's another redneck carpenter I have to listen to. And then he broke all the, you know, the images. He's just a great guy. He's obviously pretty progressive. He's not a racist or anything. And his wife's really cool and they're really a great couple. And I really enjoy the show now, but I tell Carol about that, you know. Yeah.
They're building all those homeless shelters out in IV, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So theoretically, it's some weird brand new, it's like pre-made pieces from China they assemble or something.
Yes.
Why can't that be reclaimed?
It should have been done by local contractors and school kids and kids in my department and reused wood, recouped wood. It should have been the way it's done. The government,
especially for something temporary.
It's temporary. Plus, if you get them to help, they learn a little bit of a skill. They may go all the way with that skill and say, yeah, carpentry is great. I think I'll become a carpenter. You know, they've all, you know, LA spends millions of dollars on homeless stuff. They build these giant buildings that'll last forever, that cost a fortune. It's so corrupt. I mean, it just breaks my heart. And, you know, one of the things I was going to do when I retired was to work on homeless and start an operation like that. And the only reason I didn't is because I got involved in this writing and all this stuff and I'm doing in this direction. But I can't stand to see that kind of waste and craziness. And I just wanted to, you know, make something more sensible for homeless. But at least we're not doing what LA does. But to get these prefab expensive things, you know, people are just making dollars off of this stuff. And it's, you know.
I mean, if they got that direct ship from China for the prices they're talking about, someone made like $300,000 or $400,000 off it or something.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not.
yeah. And people shouldn't be making profit out of homeless shelters. You know, that's like fucking stupid. But you know, I had a student in my class. It's funny because she's taking Carol's present class, and I just went to the first class. She asked me to, and she's a Japanese girl, Sonia Takeuchi. And she had a house in Washington. Maybe that's where her husband, they were living in different houses and visiting each other until they got to the same place. And so she'd go up to Washington and she couldn't do this project. So she said, what if I document a homeless colony up there? And I said, great. So she took films and it was a bunch of site-built places that the homeless people worked on with contractors. With wood. It was just what I'm talking about. She brought, I have it if you want to see it. I got it somewhere. And you know, they just got a lot. Probably a lot was lent or bought from the city. And then the contractors just volunteered time and people worked on it. It was just 2 rows of houses facing each other and they were gardening them and fixing them up. I thought, fuck, you know, Washington and Northern California always do more than we do. They always get the drop on Southern California. It pisses me off, you know. We have the same people, we have smart people and resources. Why are we always so behind? You know, this urban ore warehouse should have been here 20 years ago, you know. But we'll get there.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. Fuck yeah.
One very small, very slow.
I know, you know, as I get older and I reach my end, slow steps don't work anymore, you know. I can plant seed, which I hope I am, but I also like to witness some of this stuff, you know, and see that we're headed in the right direction as a culture. So
Well, I mean, it's a hard position for me now, but why not go and just build some shelters for them on public land and I mean, if you could get enough people behind it, if the county tries to tear them down, they'd be in bad shape. I mean, I don't know. For someone
But
like me with a career ahead of me, if my name was on it, I'd be screwed. I'd never get another job again. But
you know, a guy in LA did that. He made shelters just on street corners.
yeah,
On the street, you know, in a parking place. I thought it was so great. He just fucking built them for the homeless and they moved in. And people in the neighborhood went nuts, you know. And then the guy in Georgia, I remember when I was looking into this years ago, he was doing the same thing. He was just taking rural land, and he takes some field on the side of the road and build a homeless shelter. And there's so much land, it's like, who cares? Why not let them, you know? I mean, God, if you can't allow homeless person to live on the edge of your giant forest land, you know. God. So yeah, you know, there's that anarchist approach for sure.
I don't know. Something has to be done at some point, and it's
Well,
certainly
the only
not
way to
happening.
stop it is to get in there and do it, or do an alternative. And that takes a commitment that, you know, you and I may not be in a place right now to do it. But we could, the next alternative is to talk to a bunch of people, and maybe one of those has some time or wants to go in that direction for his work,
Yeah.
you know, and get that done. That's the next thing. Because you can't do everything, but you know, maybe you can find, you know, builders or people in the area that want to do that. God, you could make an industry out of that, right?
Yeah.
And build shelters here, Santa Maria, go down to Ventura, just not too far, you know, and you'd probably get a lot of business. You wouldn't make a lot of money. You would make the same kind of money building a new 14 bedroom, 15 bath McMansion, but you'd sleep better at night, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one of my plans is it's a crazy plan too. I got it from from an architect playwright brother team back in the 60s. And they wanted to give everybody material to live, you know, living space, kitchen utensils, bed supplies, instead of money, provide everybody minimum stuff to live. And then they had to work 1 year out of 5 for the government. The other 4 years, they could do whatever they want, not work, go fishing, living really simply. That 1 year, the government would tell them where they needed them to work. Oh, we need more nurses. Do you mind becoming a nurse for this year? They could train to do that work. And then if they liked it, they could make a career out of that and work for the government or privately with that skills. The government could direct its economy more pinpointed than we do now. Now in a capitalist, everybody does whatever they want and hopefully it works, but we're getting to the point where it's not working so much. And then people could work in a factory and make the supplies that everybody gets. So that year, it'd be staggered. So everybody was always working. And then people would have real freedom. They wouldn't be homeless. They wouldn't be starving. They would at least have the minimum. It wouldn't be very pretty because if they wanted more, they had to go work for it in the private economy. You know, if they wanted a middle-class life, they'd have to work a little harder in their free time. But if they didn't want to, if they just wanted to survive and do something like learn guitar perfectly, they could do that. The freedom everybody would get would be worth it right there. Being an artist, I think would be great, but I think that would be so I talk about that kind of stuff just to throw it out there, you know. And I don't know, I think it'd be really great for people. And then they could do that kind of volunteer stuff because they didn't need the money to live on. They already had that. And if that was fine, then they could volunteer and do homeless shelters and whatever shit there was around. There's a lot of it that could be done.
So many of the studies we've seen from Scandinavian countries and some of the other Northern European ones, a basic income, when people feel safe,
Yeah,
they're more likely to do well, and
and they
maybe
take
not.
chances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe not in all classical terms. They may not want to go start a business or try to, but they're going to be happy. They're going to be comfortable. They're going to interact better, less
Yeah.
crime. All these things we've seen them in these much better off countries, and they work.
I know.
A 4-day work week works a lot better
And
than
you
a
know,
5.
the conservatives that are most against that, they don't want to lose money, but they're always talking about harping on freedom, right? That's their big thing. What would give people more freedom than to have that basic minimum? And you're not giving them a lot of shit. You're giving them basic stuff. It's almost like they'd be camping, but they wouldn't be on the street and they wouldn't be starving. Their kids would be fed. And then they can work above that in those 4 years to any degree they want. They can make billions doing something. Who cares?
Yeah.
But that is the most freedom you could have for a citizenship. And yet, people would say, oh, the government's giving away money or whatever bullshit they come up with.
Yeah, no, it's tough. Why does Rodney always say